Peace and blessings, everyone. I'm going to do my part for the coronavirus lockdown, and I'm going to have a series of workshops. Uh, these are going to be especially for homeschoolers, for parents who want to try to get their children into a little bit more deeper thinking. And I thought what I'll do is, like, I have 13 books published, but I usually don't get a chance to talk about all of them. And I think something about this lockdown right now makes me want to talk about Many Windows, because Many Windows is a book about community, and that's what we need right now. This is community. And I wrote this story, I wrote this book with two fellow authors. There's Uma Krishnaswamy, who's Hindu, and there's Elisa Carbone, who's Christian. And the reason why we wanted to do this book together as a project, it was kind of like a passion project. We wanted to show how people from different religions can get along even despite their religious differences. So this is really a story about community. Now, in writing the story, there are I think 7 stories. I'm going to start with the first one. And what I was trying to do was trying to have a story arc. Like when an author is trying to explore an idea, you have to put it in a way that would be entertaining and engaging for people. Okay. And in writing Many Windows, what I was thinking of was basically how people in a community are interconnected. Now, this is a story about 6 kids who share a love of basketball. That's their common thing. And basketball is one of the coolest sports. It doesn't have violence. It's all about teamwork. It's a perfect metaphor, and metaphor is a word for those of you who don't know what a metaphor is. It's basically like a symbol. It's a comparison. So the basketball is a way that they get along, and it shows their teamwork. But underneath it, there's other stuff going on in the story. So what I decided to do was start the story with a boy who is not very cooperative. His name is TJ. Now, the story is called Many Windows, 6 kids, 5 faiths, 1 community. And we have, it's a kind of an odd arrangement, because we have stories, individual stories, and then we have nonfiction pieces about each of the religious celebrations that the kids are involved in. And I'm going to start with the first story, TJ, New Kid in Town. Now, I wrote this story. And it's about a boy who's a little bit of a bully. Okay, he's a bit of a bully. He's got bullying tendencies, and he's come into this very ideal community. And this is a community where everybody actually respects each other and gets along. Now, TJ, New Kid in Town. What does she mean, a no put down zone? I see rows and rows of eager faces. What? They're okay with this? I'm going to hate it here. I slide into a chair and slump into place. I miss my old home. I miss Tom and Rudy. Why'd we have to move here anyway? Mrs. Williams calls out to me. Travis Jr., please sit up. Instantly, I'm alert. It's TJ, I mutter. Some kids behind me snicker. I look to see who's laughing at me without letting on that I care. 2 scrawny-necked kids. I'll get them later. You bet they'll be sorry. A no put-down zone? Yeah, right. I hunch down even lower in my desk, letting my legs sprawl under the chair of the skinny Indian girl in front of me. Now, this Indian girl in front of him is going to be featured in another story. Mrs. Williams comes down the aisle toward me. I'm ready for her. Travis Jr., did you hear me? They call me TJ. Excuse me? What did you say? Is she deaf? But I'm not playing her game. The class gets really quiet. They're all hearing me now. I say low as before. They call me TJ. I don't answer to anything else. I may be sprawled out, but I'm good and ready. What's she going to do now? Mrs. Williams raises an eyebrow. Really? They never told me that at the office. I'll make a note of it right here. She scribbles on her clipboard. Then she looks up at me and smiles. Okay, TJ, could you please sit up now? All the kids are looking at me now, especially the girl in front, like I'm the one being unreasonable. And the teacher's just standing there with that phony smile on her face, waiting. So I do. I sit up, but not too quickly, and not too straight. Mrs. Williams nods to herself and goes back to the chalkboard. When her back is turned, I get comfortable again. She gets to the head of the class and turns around. She sees me. I can tell by the way she purses her thin lips, but she doesn't say anything about it, just goes on with her lesson. Ha! That was easy. Recess time comes. We're dismissed, but she calls me back before I can escape through the door. She's sitting on her desk, swinging a leg back and forth. TJ, we need to talk. I mutter under my breath, hoping she'll see I'm mad, but wanting to get out the door too. The clock is ticking. My recess is going. She'd better make it fast. She's so quiet that I finally have to look at her, and as soon as I do, she says, TJ, I really want our tolerance policy to work in this class. I want this to be a safe learning environment for everyone in here, and I'm going to need your help. Who, me? She jumps off the desk and goes to the board, pointing at the corner with the rules. I really need you to respect these, especially this one here. She points to the line that says, students are entitled to their personal space and must respect the space of others. If you cooperate with the rest of us, this school year can be a wonderful and rewarding experience for you. And part of cooperating means respecting the personal space of everyone around you. Is that something you can live with? Something I can live with? She's asking me like I've got a choice. Is she for real? It's quiet. The clock is ticking away my recess. It's the only sound in the room. She's watching me, her eyes steady. I guess she's waiting for me to say I'll agree to her stupid rules. Tick, tick goes the clock. So I finally mumble, okay. She nods. Good. Then you can go to recess. And she's smiling like everything's going to be all right. I explore the school grounds. Maybe this place isn't that bad. There's no one I couldn't take if I had to. I'll show them. Just because I'm the new kid, I won't be pushed around. By the basketball court, there are some kids from my class. There's that girl, Stephanie. Then there's Deepa, the one whose personal space I was getting into, and another one, her friend, and then two boys. Are they all friends? They're playing 2-on-3. Deepa comes charging down toward the key, dribbling the ball expertly. There are two guards, one of the boys and a girl. They're double-teaming her. She says, Stephanie, heads up. Stephanie runs past the two guards, catches Deepa's pass, and in one motion launches it toward the basket. Swish! Not bad. They're all high-fiving each other. Then I see those scrawny necks who laughed when the teacher said my name. Even while they're staring at me, the taller one elbows the other. Travis Jr., he says, and they both snicker. I walk right up to them. The taller one doesn't even come up to my nose. What was that, I say? He's not snickering anymore. I give him a shove. It's not even that hard, but he goes sprawling. Is his nose bleeding? Too bad. His friend doesn't even help him. He just stands there staring at me. I tell him, come on, say it again. I dare you. He doesn't even run away. This is too easy. I walk off disgusted. The bell rings just then, back to class. But halfway through math, there's trouble. I'm called down to the office. One of the scrawny neck kids is there, of course. He's sitting in the office, his nose all red from crying. I look right through him. Mr. Conroy, the principal, yells at me. Then he calls Mrs. Williams down. For some reason, I feel weird in my stomach. I don't know why. When Mrs. Williams walks in, I'm standing before I know it. Why didn't I stay seated? I don't care what she thinks. She's just like all the others. She says, TJ, I'm surprised at you. I thought we had an understanding. I wish she'd yell. It would make it easier. I mutter, you're the one who broke it first. She frowns and bends closer. Excuse me? What did you say? So I say it again. She shakes her head. I'm really sorry, TJ, but I just can't hear you. You're going to have to speak louder. You're the one who broke it first. She is quiet for a moment. Mr. Conroy looks like he wants to yell at me again. I wish he would, but Mrs. Williams is in charge right now. She says, broke what? When? Doesn't she get it? She really looks puzzled. She says, I don't know what you're talking about. Your stupid rules. I can feel my voice sink into nothing. Please, TJ, she says, you need to speak up. I can't help you if I can't hear you. Fine. Your rules said no put-downs, but those shrimps, they laughed when you said my name, and you didn't even stop them. It's TJ, okay? TJ, there, it's out. Now what's she going to do about it? For a moment, she just looks shocked. Then she looks at me like she's trying to read me through. You're right, TJ. That was unacceptable. What? The principal looks as surprised as I am. Mrs. Williams turns to him and says, thank you very much, Mr. Conroy. I can handle it from here. I'll just take both of them back to my class now. He says, are you sure? Mrs. Williams nods and opens the door for me. I shuffle through it, not too fast. I'm in no hurry. The kid jumps to his feet. Mrs. Williams nods at him, and we both follow her back to class. The kid sticks close to Mrs. Williams. Every once in a while, he glances back at me, shuffling along behind them. When we get into the classroom, the kid goes to sit down, but Mrs. Williams puts a hand out to stop him. No, Jeremy, you stay here, please. She turns to me and says, TJ, who was the other student who laughed at you? I point him out, and she calls him up to the front to stand beside Jeremy. Mrs. Williams straightens up. Class, for the record, TJ would like us to call him TJ, all of us, even me. Jeremy, Ryan, you have something to say? The two of them glance at me, then hunch their shoulders and stare at the floor. Well, says Mrs. Williams. Sorry, they mutter. Then they look back at me, and both of them. I'm the one who looks away. Mrs. Williams nods. Thank you. Go ahead and begin working on your journals. She sits down at her messy old desk and lowers her voice so she's speaking only to me. Okay, now that we've sorted that out, TJ, you'll have to face the consequences of what you did. She goes on for a while about how unacceptable my actions were, but I'm only half listening. She made them apologize to me. At the end of it, she says, you'll stay in detention after school with me for a whole week. We'll have lots to do, including some writing. I gape at her. She prints something on a card and pushes it at me. It has one word written on it, community. I stare. What am I supposed to do with this? Just think about the word, she says, and I'll see you after school, yes? I guess so, I mumble. She waits. Boy, is she stubborn. She could outlast a rock. Okay, I say a bit louder, but I don't yell this time. Okay, now that's the beginning story in Many Windows. The way I wrote it, the whole book is basically like a novel written through different points of view. Now, a point of view is basically who's telling the story. In the first story, the story is being told by TJ. Now, the thing you need to know about TJ, and I've seen this a lot, there's a lot of boys who are very defensive. And a lot of the time, school administrators and teachers, unfortunately, they will look at a child's reputation, okay, and they'll look at their body language and they'll make judgments about a kid. And even sometimes when that kid wants to make a difference and wants to change, they can't because their reputation precedes them. And this is basically the case for TJ. He's a little bit of a bully, okay? But he's not used to having the benefit of the rules apply to him. And what I wanted to show was that in this community, even the teacher holds herself accountable to the rules. And she applies the rules equally across the board, okay, including for the bullies, so that the bullies can become socialized. So he's coming to this community, this very ideal community. They actually get along in this little community, and it's a very multicultural and diverse community, and they all get along. It's like almost like it's like a utopia almost, but not quite. So they all get along, and he has this decision. Basically, his decision is whether or not he's going to socialize himself, because he has a choice that he could just be another bully again. Okay, so that's what it's coming down to. And did you notice the body language? I focus a lot on the body language. You see, TJ is trying to establish his own dignity, and a lot of the time kids are like that, especially kids who have been jerked around a little bit by the system, or they feel like everybody thinks of them as a horrible child, which is horrible if you think about it. If you think how a kid can't get over their reputation and stuff. So basically, this story is about this boy TJ, and in terms of metaphor, in terms of symbolism, I used a lot of body language. He talks really quietly at first when he's trying to explain his perspective, and then when Mrs. Williams pushes a little bit, then he kind of shouts a little bit, but she doesn't get thrown off track. Like some teachers might feel like, oh, you're being disrespectful, but instead she allows him to express himself and she gives him her ear. And because of that, he's not used to it. He doesn't know exactly how to respond. Okay, so that's the setting up of the story, and the story is actually kind of about TJ. Okay, the next story is called Natalie the Locket, and what I'll do tomorrow, or whenever I can. The next video I will upload is I'm going to talk about that. I'll read that story and I'll talk a little bit about how I set it up. So TJ, the TJ, the new kid in town, it's really about whether he wants to socialize himself. Thank you for listening. And maybe what you can do, parents and children and students, what you could do is maybe discuss how the story made you feel, what you think might be happening, what do you think is going to happen, and how are the different story narratives going to come together. Okay? See you tomorrow.